Hey everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. Thanks for joining me today. In today's how-to, we're going to tackle the amazing game, Terraforming Mars. A game for 1 to 5 players. Yes, there is a solo mode. No, I do not address it in this video, with a playtime of roughly 2 hours. If you've got anyone that's first time in the game, try to pad about 3 hours for it. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into reviewing the components, the setup, and how to play Terraforming Mars. So let's take a quick look at the components that are going to come out during the course of play. If you're already familiar with the components, just go ahead and skip ahead to the setup and how to play the game. So to begin, we have resource cubes in 3 denominations of bronze, silver, gold, or 1, 5, and 10. We have the marker cubes, 1 for the generation tracker, 1 for the temperature tracker, and 1 for the oxygen tracker. Player cubes, 1 in 5 different colors in the base game. Ocean tiles. Specialty tiles, which there are more of, but we won't cover those in detail here. Please refer to the instructions if ever these need to be used. City and forest tiles, which are both dual-sided, so it doesn't matter which one you grab, just flip it to the side that you need. Here we have corporation cards. Beginner corporations for a beginner or standard type of play, and corporation cards, which would be for the more advanced play, of which there are 12 to choose from. These corporation cards also determine how each player will set up at the beginning of the game. A beginning corporation, all players set up with 42 mega credits and 10 cards. If playing advanced, where you're selecting a corporation, it'll tell you exactly how to set yourself up in the beginning of the game. And lastly, the cards that are going to come out during the course of play. There are 3 types of cards, blue, green, and red, where blue cards will typically have an action or an effect that can be used during the course of the game. Green cards are just general buildings, and red cards are closer to more of an action card. As denoted by the arrow, you'll want to flip it over once you've resolved its effects. Additionally, in the lower left corner, you'll notice a red arrow. These cards should only be used when playing the corporations version or the more advanced version. If you are not playing with corporations or only using the beginner corporations, remove the cards that have the red arrows from the deck before beginning play, which we'll cover additionally in a moment. On each of the cards, we have their costs in mega credits, what they are, their tag types, which there are different types of, any additional requirements that need to be met. So this one, for example, the temperature must be at least -20 Celsius. And then there are any additional effects or impacts that will happen when playing the cards. The great thing is that each of the cards do have not only iconography, but additionally, they do a great job of wording out exactly what's going to happen when using the cards. Here's a look at the player board that every player will get one of. On the player board, take notice of the different icons as well as the different production throughout the course of the game. This box relates to your mega credits and their production. This is your steel and its production. Take note that when building any cards that have this tag type in the upper right hand corner, you may use any of the steel resources here to count as 2 mega credits towards its cost. Here's your titanium, and when building any cards that have this star symbol, you may then use your titanium resources for 3 per cube towards its cost. Your leaves or trees, where 8 of them may be converted to create a forest on the main play area. Your energy, which at the end of each generation will be converted into heat. And then your heat, where you may take 8 of them to increase the temperature 1 step. Take notice additionally to the sort of textured brown background behind your production. This is going to become important throughout the course of play because any cards or actions that have this brown background will indicate a change in the production. If it is absent its brown background and only has the icons of each of the types, then you are adding that resource for the action. And lastly, we have the main play board. This is where you're going to be building your tiles that you're going to use during the course of play. Around the edge of the board is not only your victory point track, but additionally your TR rating, which influences your money production that you receive in addition to what you have on your player board. We have the oxygen rating up to 14%, the temperature up to +8 Celsius, the 9 ocean tiles that will be stacked and used during the game, the standard projects that can be built during the course of play, and the different milestones and awards that can be had during the course of play, in addition to the main area where blue areas are where oceans may be built and built only unless a card specifies otherwise, and some additional bonuses for building on top of each of these areas. So let's take a quick look at each of these sections just a little bit closer. So here in the main play area, this is where you're going to build city tiles, forest tiles, and ocean tiles, as well as any special ones as indicated during the course of play. Ocean tiles must go on the blue areas, and when building oceans, you're going to take the 2 additional trees and put them into your resources. If, say, building up over here, you get to take a titanium and a tree, whether you're building a forest or a city or anything else. Standard projects, which may be used as an action during the game, which we'll cover in just a moment, are selling patents to allow you to discard any number of cards and collect 1 mega credit for the number of cards discarded. Power plant, which allows you to spend 11 mega credits to increase your energy production. Asteroid, which allows you to spend 14 mega credits to increase the temperature by 1. Aquifer allows you to spend 18 to create an ocean on Mars. Greenery allows you to spend 23 to build a forest and increase the oxygen by 1. And then a city allows you to spend 25 mega credits to place a city, as well as increase your mega credit production by 1. These are the different milestones where the player must have at least the number indicated for each of them, and please refer to the instructions for any additional details, but keep in mind that only 3 milestones may be purchased during the course of the game. Awards, similar to milestones, only 3 may be funded during the game. However, there are 2 people that may receive points from them, and in each of the categories, the person that funds it may not necessarily be the winner of the victory points. Now that we've tackled all the resources, let's go ahead and set up the game for play. To begin, what we're going to do is put the main play area in reach of all players. Hand all players 1 play mat or play board and the color of their choosing and all the player cubes that go with it. Then, each player should take their player cube and place it on the TR track at the 20 marker. Then we're going to add cubes in each of the areas around the play, including the 9 ocean tiles. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll come right back. So when you've finished setting up the play area, it should look something like this, where all players have a cube on the 20 TR, a white cube placed at the 0% of oxygen, a white cube on the lowest point of temperature, all 9 ocean tiles in their location, and take the other white cube and set it on the 1 to signify round 1 or the first generation. Next, determine if you're going to be playing a beginner corporation game or a game with corporations. If playing a beginner game, hand each player a beginner corporation card. Otherwise, deal 2 corporations to each player, having them select one before the game begins. For purposes of this demonstration, we are going to use beginner corporations and the setup that goes with that. So in a beginner game, make sure that when you're setting up all the cards, to remove all cards that have a red icon in the lower left corner of them. So you should only be left with cards that do not have a red arrow in the lower left. Once you've done that, go ahead and create a draw pile next to the board for all players, including a draw pile for the different resources, as well as the trees and cities. I'm going to keep those off camera for now, but just note that they are there. Now that the main area is set up, let's take a look at the player board setup. In accordance with the beginner corporation, all players will receive 42 mega credits, so 10, 20, 30, 35, 42, and 10 cards into their hand for free. Additionally, put a player cube on the 0 space of each of the production markers. If you're playing an advanced version, refer to the setup of your corporation if any of that changes. One thing to note is that resource cubes count as the resource wherever they are. So example, I have 42 mega credits, but no resources of the rest. If this cube were here, I would have 10 leaves or trees available. If it were here, then that is 10 steel available to use. If it were here, 10 energy. You get the idea. These are resource cubes universally used across all the different types of productions, but they denote the values of which you have in each of those corresponding types of production. So that's it. We are complete with setup, so we're ready to dive in and how to play the game. So how is the game played? Well, let's take a quick look at the end game scenario first. So the game will be played over an indeterminate number of generations, but the end game will be triggered when the temperature track reaches +8, when the oxygen track reaches +14, and when all 9 ocean tiles have been placed on Mars. This triggers the end game event, which then everyone has the chance to finish that generation before the game ends. So how's the game played? Well, determine a first player, hand them the first player marker, and play will begin in clockwise order. On your turn, you are going to take one of 2 actions. Those actions can be playing a card from your hand, so taking a card, paying its cost, and playing it into your play area. Triggering a standard project by either paying its cost or discarding cards. Using the action of any blue cards that you may have built, similar to this card. Converting 8 plants on your player board into a tree or into a greenery tile. Converting 8 heat to raise the temperature track. Claiming any milestones or awards. These are the different actions that you can take, and on your turn you can take 1 or 2. As long as you take 1 action, you have not passed your turn. The generation will continue and all players will take 1 or 2 actions on their turn until all players have passed their turn. Then you're ready to move into the next generation. By doing so, you're going to pass the first player token, you're going to increase the generation track by 1, and then you're going to deal 4 cards to each player. Of those 4 cards, the players will be able to look at them and decide which they want to keep. Any cards they keep will cost them 3 mega credits from their supply. Additionally, you're going to pay out production, and production is paid out in accordance to what you have on this track. For mega credits, or mega credits, you're going to take wherever you are on the TR track, so everyone starts at 20, and add that to any value here. Resource production is considered infinite, meaning if you ever reach a 10 in any production value, you can continue, just leave a marker there, and then you would continue down the track again. If you reach there again, just stack the cube, indicating that you now have 20 production there, and continue through the tracks again. So at the end of the first generation, if this were my setup, I would actually receive no additional production from any of these resources. However, if it looked something like this, then in addition to my TR track plus this production for my money, I would take 20 mega credits. I would take 2 steel, no titanium. I would take 1 forest, 1 tree, and I would take 1 energy into my pile. Once you've taken that production, then decide which cards you'd like to purchase, discarding any cards that you do not wish to buy. From there, play will continue, with each players again taking 1 or 2 actions on their turn. The primary action being usually building a card, or playing a card rather, I should say. So figuring out in your hand which one you'd like to use. So for example, if I were to say play a card as one of my actions to build this solar power, what that would look like is you're going to just take the card, place it next to your play area, pay its cost, so this is 11 mega credits. No additional requirements here. It counts as an energy tag and a builder tag. So I could, if I had steel, take a cube from here to put towards its cost, and it would count as 2 mega credits. And then it says down at the bottom, increase your energy production by 1 step. So then I would increase my energy by 1, leaving this card face up. If I were to have played the ice asteroid for my second action, then I would put it here, pay its cost of 23. Then it says to build 2 ocean. So I would take 2 ocean tiles in the main play area, put them on Mars, and when playing an ocean tile, I'm going to go up the TR track 1 for each tile placed. So how does additional scoring work? Well, let's take a quick look at that. So since I've just played a card for Ice Asteroid and it said to put 2 oceans on Mars, let's go ahead and do that, 1 and 2. I would have a couple of things triggered here. 1, I place this ocean and I would take 2 greenery cubes and put it into my play area. Then 2, I would place this ocean, take 2 more cubes and put it into my greenery area. But anytime you build a tile next to an ocean, you get 2 mega credits for each adjacent ocean. So if I've just put this ocean tile down, I would take 2 extra mega credits into my play area. So I would go up the TR track for each of these. If I place a forest out here on Mars, once I place it, I'm going to claim it. Once it's been claimed, it's mine. Because I've built it, or because I've planted a forest, I'm going to move up the oxygen 1 on the track. But because the oxygen has increased, I will additionally move my marker 1 on the TR track. The same applies here to the temperature. Anytime you rise the temperature, you would receive 1 TR point, or 1 victory point on the TR track. Additionally, let's say you went from 7 to 8. Once you've reached 8% on the oxygen, it triggers a heat increase. Bear in mind that I would get 1 point for triggering or for moving up the oxygen track, but then because that triggered increase in the heat, I would move up my TR track once again. Then the game will continue to play until all the 3 victory conditions have been met. Now, cities. Cities may not be placed next to each other. This cannot happen. This is perfectly fine, as is this. Cities by themselves are worth nothing. Cities are scored for each adjacent forest, regardless of ownership. So, if, say, yellow player owned that forest, I would still score a victory point when scoring my city. Now this city is worth 2 points. And now it's worth 3 points. Each forest tile that you own on the board is also worth 1 victory point. So that is worth 1, 2, and 3 victory points at the end of the game. And lastly, when building forests, they must be placed, if possible, next to a tile you already own. So example, if this were my first tile placed, I don't yet own any tiles. So I could place this forest anywhere. Any subsequent forests must be connected to a tile that I own. If I had built this city first, then my first forest must be connected or adjacent to a tile that I own. Again, if possible. If it is not possible for me to place a forest tile next to something I own, then I may place it anywhere on the board. So that's going to do it here, guys. Really the last piece for scoring. Once the game ends, let's go ahead and actually tackle that last piece for when the game ends. So in the generation where the temperature reaches max, where the oxygen reaches max, and when all oceans are on the board, you're going to finish that generation, meaning players can continue taking as many turns as they can during the course of the generation until all players have passed. Once all players have passed, it triggers the end game before scoring. All players will pay out production one more time. So, in accordance to whatever your playboard says, you're going to pay out your money, your steel, your titanium, your trees, your energy, your heat, everything. Then all players, starting with the first player in turn order, may spend their trees to put them on the board. This is the final action that can be taken once the final generation has ended. Converting trees into forests on the board is the only thing that may be done. But it is still important to take your production for all of your resources in case you've funded any of these awards down here. Example, the Thermalist Award awards 5 victory points to the player who has the most heat cubes at the end of the game. The Miner Award gives 5 victory points to the first player and 2 to the second player that has the most combined steel and titanium cubes. This is why it's important to take that final production. So when you're scoring, you want to go ahead and start around the track wherever you are. So that's your kind of base victory points, however you've ended. Score any awards, score any milestones, score your greenery tiles, score the cities for every adjacent greenery tile, forest tile, and then lastly, go through any of your cards and resolve their victory points if they have them available. So there's a lot going on here in Terraforming Mars, guys, but as complex of a game as it is, once you get going, it definitely makes sense. Additionally, there are these handy reference cards, so please make sure to make use of them during the course of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this down, guys, and bring you my afterthoughts. Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that setup and how-to for the game Terraforming Mars. I know there's a lot going on there, so I really hope you guys were able to make sense of it, because once you get going, it really is not that hard of a game to play, and there are many paths to victory. So I guess, with that, guys, let me go ahead and tackle the components like I often do at the start. The components look great. Hard stop. So one of my biggest frustrations about this game is after so many playthroughs, I'll tell you what, my ocean tiles, they're just, punch board, are already running, rubbing down and starting to peel at the edges. And I like to think that I take care of my games pretty well, so that is super frustrating that that's already happening. The cubes, again, like your silver, your bronze, silver, and gold cubes look really nice, and they definitely stand out, for anyone who isn't familiar with the game, who might just be passing by and sees them. But they chip and peel very easily. Again, frustrating. So again, such a great game, but already tiles are starting to wear down and the cubes are starting to peel off from, I guess, what is their paint. And then lastly is the cards. For as wonderful as a game this is, that is also heavily card-based, there's no linen finish, and you guys know how much I like a linen finish on cards. And I guess the last thing is the player mat. It's just, again, a little flimsy player board. If you jostle the table in any way, well, your setup's gone. You might as well just start over. So that's why I did do some aftermarket printing for player boards so that I could have divots for the production value, and it really helped out a lot. The other thing is that there's no insert to speak of. This is just everything in a bunch of baggies in air, and it's just kind of in there, right? So again, I do need to probably get around to 3D printing an insert for this one. But all of that off the side, all that off the table now, the components could be better. And it's been out for a while. I'm sure a lot of you guys might have already done it. But if you're here, maybe you're new to Terraforming Mars. So just, please keep in mind that, you may want to get some deluxe pieces that if they're available. It's a great game. So as far as the engine builders go, Terraforming Mars does a phenomenal job of both player interaction and game theme and keeping you involved. The turns, when it's your turn, and whether you're playing with 2 players or whether you're playing with 5 players, it's going to be your turn again very quickly, and that's sometimes hard to do in a 5-player game where there might be too much of a lull by the time I take my turn and someone else does theirs and it gets back around to me. That's not going to be the case in Terraforming Mars, which is really great. Additionally, there are so many ways to victory that I can't say one strategy is more powerful than the other. Now, you are reliant on the cards that you get drawn to yourself. So again, every generation you have a chance to buy those 4 cards. So your strategy is kind of dictated by the hand you're dealt, so to speak. But you can always adapt and modify relatively easily, which is good. But again, because you're not pigeonholed ever in one type of path, again, it's really cool. I've won games where I've been the one mostly moving the temperature and the oxygen forward, thus building trees, and that's how my engine was built. Other times, I've seen players with the microbes or the pets and all that, where you're adding cubes to your cards, which also seems to be a pretty nice way to victory. But you got to watch players and those awards and milestones. You don't want any one player to scoop up, 2 or 3 or all 3 of those milestones, because 15 points in this game is a lot and it matters. So why should you add Terraforming Mars to your collection? Because it's a phenomenal engine builder and you should add it to your collection. The end. Why is there a reason you may not want to add this to your collection? Oh man, yeah, it's tough to really say, because I don't want to harp on the components too much, but the components could be better, especially for the price of the game. But otherwise, you may not want to add it because you don't like a space theme, I guess. I can't think of too many reasons why not to, guys. It's just, it really is a phenomenal game. And on that, I did have some members of the game group play Terraforming Mars for the first time, and they both thoroughly enjoyed it, even a little bit more than Wingspan. So that gives you any semblance of how good it is. It really is good. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. If you do have any questions or comments about Terraforming Mars, please leave them down below. Happy to answer and help out as best as I can. If you've enjoyed the video and like the content, I do appreciate the support. So as always, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching.